Okay, hello again, ladies. So, carrying on with the second part of Unit 2 and thinking about metacognition, which I've mentioned quite a few times as we were discussing in the last video. So, if I just quickly go through the slides that I have here on metacognition, and then we discuss, then I will discuss what I think metacognition means. And it's a lot simpler than it sounds. So metacognitive and self-regulation strategies are teaching approaches which make the learners think about learning more explicitly, usually by teaching learners specific strategies to set goals and to monitor and evaluate their own learning. It involves being aware of your strengths and weaknesses as a learner, such as by developing self-assessment skills and being able to set and monitor goals. And it's about having a range of strategies to choose from or to switch to during learning activities, a menu to choose from. So, to put that simply, if you're reading something and you come to a word that you can't read, what do? Do you break it down and sound it out? Do you look at the picture to see if that gives you a clue as to what the word might mean? Do you read the rest of the sentence and try and work out what the word might mean? So those are three strategies with which you could tackle not knowing what a word said. Okay, and that's an example of metacognition. Okay, developing metacognitive and self-regulation skills is challenging, and the research suggests that it should teach the approaches which encourage learners to plan, monitor and evaluate their learning have very high potential but require careful implementation. We can't just expect the children to suddenly be able to do these things and suddenly be able to work out strategies. We may have to quite carefully teach them to do it. Teach learners explicit strategies to plan, to monitor and evaluate their learning, and give them opportunities to use them with support and then independently. When using approaches for planning, ask learners to identify the different ways they could plan, which is a general strategy, and about the best approach for a particular task, which is a specific technique. And monitoring involves identifying the key steps students need to be aware of as they go through a task to keep it on track. So you might ask, where might this go wrong? What will be the difficult parts? So that they're ready for the difficult parts. Evaluating can be part of the process of checking so that it feeds into the current task as it nears completion. Can you make it better? Are you sure this is right? And it can also feed forward into future tasks. What have you learned that will change what you do next time? Okay, if we just watch a video of Professor Steve Higgins again.
It basically means helping learners to think about their own learning. So it means strategies that help learners plan, monitor, or review what they do in terms of tasks and activities in school. So, can you give us an practical example of this? Well, there are all sorts of different ways that students can be helped or supported with planning activities. So, we're looking at, say, extended writing. They could use storyboards, they could use a mind map, they could use narrative structure to help them with that plan. Getting them to reflect on the advantages and disadvantages of those different tools would be activating their metacognition, which are getting them to think about different ways would help them.
Okay, so I'm aware that that was pretty quiet. Hopefully you were able to hear it as best you could. If you didn't hear it very well, if you look up YouTube, Professor Steve Higgins Metacognition, you'll find what he says there. Okay, so, sorry, move that back. Okay, so, metacognition, basically. As I say, sounds really complicated, but it's actually quite straightforward. It's basically thinking about thinking and thinking about doing. So when you're faced with a task, every time you make a plan, every time you pause for thought or mull something over, every time you make a to-do list to organize your thoughts, you're using metacognitive approaches. So it's a really natural, everyday process, especially if something is new or challenging to us. If children don't learn to develop skills of metacognition and self-regulation, they can be really impulsive and disorganized. You can imagine yourself if you were faced with a task that was new or you weren't sure about it and you didn't stop and think about it and you charged off and started on something, then stopped and then started on something else, you wouldn't get on very far. And it's exactly the same for the children with the tasks that we do for them. Teaching metacognition is very much about teaching an awareness and an understanding of your own actions and your own thought processes. So it can be characterized as learning to learn. And I think if we have a classroom culture that will encourage metacognition, then we are encouraging the children to ask questions. We're giving them challenging and extended tasks rather than just a one-step task. If we make our tasks a little bit more complex, so that there are several stages that have to be gone through. And I think above all, if we're obviously interested in what they're saying to us and what they're asking us, because when they're asking us, as long as they haven't got into the habit of just asking us for help, but if they're asking us for what the next stage is, then that is metacognitive processes in action, because they're thinking ahead to the next action they need to take, and they're checking with you whether that's correct. Okay, so it's really very much about encouraging discussion. Okay, now the benefits of metacognition, this thinking about thinking and learning about learning, it's an everyday talent for all of our daily lives, and as I say, helps all of us with challenging circumstances or tasks. Okay, so it's really the ability to be able to plan, to check and refine what you've been doing, and maybe you use tools or strategies to tackle a task. Okay, so to finish off Unit 2, again, email me, WhatsApp me, voice note me, come and speak to me. But if you can tell me what is metacognition, how it might look in your classroom, and what steps you could introduce to actively teach metacognition to your children in your class. That's what I'd like to get you back from you for Unit 2. Okay, thanks ladies, have a great day, take care.